Welcome back, friends, to another build guide video. Today we're talking about the second best Nijima sister, Makoto, otherwise known as Queen. If you're new to these guides, we're going to talk about the powers, we're going to talk about the weapon, the build, we're going to show off the skills, talk about good teams and good personas to pair with your DPS unit here. And overall, we're just going to get you ready as to whether or not you should pull for this character. So sit back, relax, like and sub the video if you don't mind, and let's just dive right in. So we're going to start like we usually do, talking about awarenesses and passives. Her base awareness that you get for unlocking the character. When attacking a foe with a skill, gain 1 tenacity stack. If Crash Out is not active at the end of the turn, gain more tenacity stacks based on the number of elemental ailments inflicted on the foe, including foes defeated during the turn. So the two things to learn here are tenacity and Crash Out. Tenacity, again, is a stacking mechanic like it says. It increases Queen's attack and defense by 6% and 2% respectively. And then Crash Out is like an alternate mode. So you'll see it in a little bit where her like mask is shining. You'll notice it pretty quickly here. And this will increase her attack by 40% and defense by 20% for 2 turns. And it turns her skill 3 from its normally devastating amount of damage to a much amped up version of that called Thermonuclear Fury. So her whole kit is based around getting tenacity stacks, going into Crash Out, and then just unleashing raw amounts of damage. Now for her talents, first one, during battle for each different type of elemental ailment on foes, increase attack by 15%. Elemental ailments are things like your burn, your freeze, your shock, your windswept. These are things you typically get from your fire, ice, respective type spells. Unshakable Will, start a battle, increase damage reduction by 6%, and when Crash Out is active, increase damage reduction by 6% more, up to 18%, which just makes her more tanky. Nothing too crazy there. Alright, next up, let's go right into her skill 1, Sanctioned Drift. This is your AoE skill on her. Now keep in mind, she is built around single target, so this isn't going to be as destructive as her skill 3 will be, but it's still helpful in situations like Velvet Trials, where you have multi-targets and you want to trigger an all-out attack. You could use this to down multiple enemies, or just any situation where you really do need to take down AoE. You'll see the battle that I'm in today is the current guild boss, and in that guild boss, it actually wants you to kind of kill the things on the sides. And so this is a place where I actually would use this skill. So it's not completely useless, it's just not used as much as your skill 3 will be. But it deals nuclear damage to the foe equal to a percent of attack. It does 5 hits. And like other skills of a similar nature from other kits, it will prioritize targets it hasn't hit already when there's multiple targets. And if it's hitting the same target over and over again, it reduces the damage it does to that target. Also inflict random elemental ailments on the target of each hit, and it prioritizes inflicting ones the target doesn't have. And what it means by that is if they already have burn, it'll try to give them like shock or freeze or something else that it doesn't already have. If the target has an elemental ailment, activate a technical and deal bonus nuclear damage equal to a certain percentage of her attack. And it inflicts radiation on the main target for 2 turns. Main target is the one that you have selected when you press the button. Radiation is another elemental ailment, which increases nuclear damage by 15% for 2 turns. So do think about who you click when you launch this power. Make sure that you're giving this extra debuff or this extra elemental ailment to maybe the hardest thing that you need to fight in that particular match. So let's back out of here. Let's go ahead and use the power. So skill 1 is going to be AoE. Again, it's going to hit everybody. And notice how they don't have these extra elemental ailments. You're going to see it add those in. So look for things like burn and freeze here. And there you go. You can see like burn was on that guy. The one next to it had winded, which is that little like swoosh looking thing. And so that one's going to do AoE. It's going to put elemental ailments onto the enemy. But let's dive into skill 2. Now skill 2, truth be told, is not a power you're probably going to click often, if ever, but it restores the HP of another one of your allies by a certain amount, and it increases Queen's attack for 2 turns, also grants tenacity to her as well. Really, you're going to be looking at using your skill 3 more than anything else, and for things like heals, you're going to want more of a sustain character, or for things like attack buffs, you're going to want somebody else buffing her so she can continue to do damage. So on paper it sounds okay, but in practice you really don't want to press this unless you absolutely have to. So if you were in like a, hey, I've got to heal Leo, because that's how that boy works, that's when you might have to use it. And so I'm going to use it on him as the example. And there you go, you see he got himself a little bit of heal, she gets a little bit of a buff. And then we'll swing back around for skill number 3. Oh boy, this is where the good stuff is at. Her skill 3 is basically her whole kit. Deal nuclear damage to one foe equal to a percentage of attack and a high percentage at that. These numbers go up as you go up in level. Gains 2 tenacity stacks. If the main target has an elemental ailment, activate a technical, dealing bonus nuclear damage equal to a percentage of attack. Then, when you switch into Crash Out, you go into Thermonuclear Fury instead. It's an upgraded version of this power. Deals nuclear damage to one foe for a higher amount than the other version of it. For each different elemental ailment the foe has, activate a technical, dealing bonus nuclear damage equal to a percentage of attack up to 3 hits. So I'm actually going to have to demonstrate this to you twice. One with her, regular version and one with her upgraded version. Now, I didn't set this battle up to demonstrate her raw power. This is just to show you the skill and what it looks like. But we'll come back and show you a bit better version of this later. So this is the base version before Crash Out. So again, it's not going to show you much right here. I didn't set up the damage on this one, but that is what the attack looks like. Let me get back around. We'll get into Crash Out and I'll show you what it looks like in that version of the power itself. All right, so here it is. You're ready for Crash Out because you've got this, new icon that's blinking at you, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to click that. We're going to go into Crash Out. And now this power has transformed. So it's now Thermonuclear Fury. The animation changes and it does more damage. So there you go. And you see it kind of ticking up because it's looking at those elemental ailments and giving that extra technical damage. But that's skill 3 with Crash Out. And that's going to leave us with our highlight move. Now for our ultimate or highlight attack, deal nuclear damage to one foe equal to 455% of attack, gained 2 frenzied voltage stacks, and activate the following. Spend 1 frenzy voltage stack to inflict 1 random ailment on foes, continuing to foes have 2 elemental ailments. Then spend all remaining frenzied voltage stacks to increase the damage of the skill 20% per stack. It's a mouthful. All it says is we're going to do a ton of damage. This thing is going to hit like a truck. That's what you really want to read off of that one. So we'll come in here, and again, I'm going to show you the animation. Let me make sure this is at its default. And here we go. And so that is her highlight. So again, I did not do any damage setup here, so don't be underwhelmed by the damage that you're looking at. This is just me demonstrating the skills. But with that, let's switch screens and let's dive over into her awakenings and what you get for each of those. So truth be told, the awakenings for her are pretty good. We've talked about awareness 0, so let's dive right into awareness 1. At the start of battle, gain 5 tenacity stacks, allowing her to activate Crash Out on her action. When Crash Out is active, increase attack by 50% more and damage by 35%. I'm not going to lie, there's a part of me that really wants to chase this A1. If I wasn't saving gems for other units, I would love this. I don't think you should chase it. It's very, very tempting though. But this is a really good A1. If you're one of those people that got a double pull on Makoto, I'm very jealous of you right now. Awareness 2, when Crash Out is active, inflict random elemental ailments on foes, and for each different type of elemental ailment, increase her pierce rate by 6%. This is another good one. Pierce rate is just a good way to do more damage. And obviously there's going to be all sorts of elemental ailments on your enemies because you're going to be inflicting them, via Vino and others. So another great awareness. 3, these are skill ups. Awareness 4 for your highlight, increase maximum frenzied voltage stacks to 4, inflict up to 4 elemental ailments on foes, and increase skill damage up to 4 times. Again, we're just pumping more damage into her. 5 is more skill ups. And then 6, when Crash Out is active, Makoto can gain an extra action. These extra actions do not affect the duration of effects with turn limits. Also decrease the SP cost of Thermonuclear Fury by 33%. Think Joker. So like Joker gets an extra turn after certain things happen. She's getting an extra turn with Crash Out. So, extra actions is just more damage while you're in a mode that gives you more damage. Like, yes, please. Do I think that you should push her to A6 and go spend all your resources? If you're not a whale, I don't. Would it be nice to have? Absolutely, it's a great amount of damage, but I don't think it's worth pushing basically any character this high unless you really, really, really want to invest. And even Awareness 1, as much as I think this is a great amount of power for her, and they added this bonus damage, by the way, to Makoto. This wasn't in the other versions of the game. I still think you're better off saving gems for another character. You know, think about a situation where you could get like a Phoebe or, you know, a Cord coming up if you're watching this near to the time that Queen released. I would rather have a whole nother character than just one more awareness. But you could do a lot worse. This is a great awareness. All around, her entire awareness tree is pretty darn good. Let's talk about the weapons. So, obviously she has 2. Our first one, your 4-star, and this is at the base value. Increase attack by 12%. When dealing nuclear damage, increase damage by 4.4% for each tenacity stack gained. And if we look at the maxed out version, because you can get your 4 stars maxed out sometimes, you would go from the 12 and 4.4 all the way up to 24% and 8% for each tenacity stack gained. So decent, you know, bump obviously by fully fusing this out. Now her 5-star. Increase nuclear damage by 24.2%. When attacking a foe with an elemental ailment, increase attack by 30%. When an ally inflicts elemental ailments, so think like Vino, putting these things on them, gain 1 heat stack. When Crash Out is active, spend all heat stacks to increase the next nuclear skill damage by 10% for each heat stack up to 60%. This is a hell of a power spike. I personally think, being that this is your best single target damage dealer that you're going to have for a long time, if you're pulling for her, her weapon is very much worth it. Now, if you are stuck in a situation where you're very limited on gems, maybe you had to push her all the way up to the hard pity and you need to save for, I don't know, Cord or somebody else, fine, skip it. She's still going to hit like an absolute truck. It's not like if she doesn't have this, she doesn't do her powers. This just gives a really great damage buff, particularly for that first skill after you transition into Crash Out, because it's like cashing in these different stacks that you're gaining for heat, and then it's just bumping up her damage. So it does a lot for her. I think they're worth having. Obviously, I pulled them, but I can appreciate that you may not always have all the resources for every weapon, and it's okay to skip weapons for the sake of getting another character. That said, if you've got some, you know, coins laying around or whatever, it's worth going for this weapon. All right, so let's switch gears into her revelations or card set. And pretty straightforward for her, she wants the awareness and truth set. So the 2-piece, 4-piece, and bonus effect on this one. First of all, 2-piece increased nuclear damage by 10%. 4-piece, when attacking with a skill, deal 30% of user's attack if the target has an elemental ailment. And then the full bonus, increased damage dealt to foes with elemental ailments by 12%, stacks up to 2 times. So clearly a full synergistic kit. You know, for Makoto, I can't think of a better set to put on her. Now, ignore my scuffed cards here. This is just a starter set for me. But let's talk about main stats. As always, it's HP on your sun. It's the only thing you can have. Here, you want attack multiplier plus. On star, you want critical rate. And on Sky, you want attack, not HP. This is a card I just don't have a better one for. Now, as far as your substats go, pretty straightforward damage split here. So you want crit rate. Really want to push that up so she's getting consistent crits. You want crit multiplier percent. This is to make those crits hit harder. I don't have it here, but you'd look for Pierce. And then you can look for like attack multiplier plus. Those are the kind of things you want. All right, so just going over it quickly again. You're going to want your HP here because you have to. Moon is going to be your attack multiplier percent, or attack percent would be fine here, honestly. Crit rate on this one, and attack percent on the end. And your substats, crit rate, crit multiplier, pierce, and attack multiplier plus. I'm still getting used to some of these new names. Now, we don't have it on global yet, but later on we'll get mental images, so I can't show it to you here. But as far as your priority for upgrading, she does have a critical rate percent stat, so you want to bump that up. Then you want to move into her skill. That includes skill 3, because again, she's mostly just pressing skill 3. So that's your second priority. Then you go into her other stat, which is attack percentage, and then you can round it out with her other skill when you have the materials for it. But really prioritize your crit rates into your skill 3, as those are really things you want to drive. And the extra percentages from the attack percent are certainly nice to have as well. Now let's talk a little bit about her rotation before we move on. She is really simple, and you're going to level your skills kind of in line with this concept here. Let me turn my camera off for just a second. And so for her, you really just want to skill 3, then switch into crash out, and then skill 3, and then just repeat. So unless you're in a situation where you need an AoE, for example, like the guild boss, or if you're trying to knock people down, you really are just pressing one button and then launching your highlight when it makes sense for, your setup on your team. It's that simple. And so I would say, as far as limited resources go, prioritize your skill 3 and your highlight move, your thief tactic over here. Put your priorities there, then put some skills into skill 1. You don't have to push this to rank 9, rank 10 right away. Definitely focus on these two first. And you can see here, I'm not even touching skill 2. I'll just maybe one day fill that out. It's not something I really see myself using, and so I might as well save those resources from someone else. All right, so let's move on to team compositions and the various, weapons or, personas that you can bring with her. Let's pull up a sheet here. So the thing you want to know about Makoto is, in all honesty, she needs Vino. This is a 4-star character, and so because it's a 4-star character, you can get her a couple different ways. One is going to be through selectors. So if you have a 4-star selector, or maybe you haven't gotten the one in the Metro, or maybe you get one later, you can get her from a selector. You can also get her while pulling, just randomly. The nice thing about this game is you do eventually get all of your 4 stars to 6 stars just by pulling. You have to play for a little while, but it ends up happening anyways. But whatever way you choose or find yourself getting Vino, you really do want her for this team. There is not a suitable replacement to her. And even with the upgrades to her skill 1, it doesn't replace all the things Vino does for her. Now, I'll be releasing a Vino guide soon enough, so if you want more details on Vino, check out that video when it comes out here in a few days. But just know that this is, as important to Makoto, basically as pulling Makoto herself. So she is a permanent stay on your team. Now, we're in this weird kind of transitionary period where we have the characters that we have at the moment, but we're about to get the likes of Phoebe, Cord, and then, in a couple months, we'll end up getting Futaba as well. So I want to tell you about a couple different ways to set up this team. What you see on my screen right now is your kind of traditional I don't need sustain team. This is the full foot on the gas, floor it, kind of characters. Ignore my personas and weapon for a second. But this is the you have to bring Vino. I'm just going to tell you she's mandatory. And then Leo is really good at buffing Makoto for the roster that we have today. As far as the Navi, it's currently the same choice as always. Okean is giving you more offense. Puppet would make you more defensive. But if you are in a sustained situation where you can outlast the opponent and you just have to do raw damage, this is your go-to. This is a great team to put in. Now, if you need sustain, this is where you have to do one of a couple things. Obviously, if you want a true healer, just pick your best healer. So you could pick like a Minami, or, maybe you've built up Cattle since the start of the game. You could throw him in there. He also could drop burn on an enemy. If you're running with your, Morgana can create winded situations. So any of the healers are good, but Minami is going to be your best healer if you have her. The case for Soy is interesting because he can drop defense debuffs on the enemy. But the thing to look out for is if you're running Soy and you're running Vino, there's a chance that you're running the same card set. So you're going to see here, I've got Control and Departure. This is also what I have on Vino. This down here, this extra piece here, doesn't stack. So if he triggers this extra defense down, Vino isn't going to trigger a second version of this. So if you are running these two together, or any other unit that also has Control and Departure, just make sure you swap out one of their card sets, whatever one makes the most sense for your current cards that you have in your inventory, because you don't want to lose the chance at a secondary effect down here. But for my kind of setup, I'd personally go with Minami, and if I didn't have Minami, I would probably end up using either Cattle or Morgana. I don't think I'd put Soy in this team as often, just because I would like to have more of a raw healer here. As far as the future, because the future in this situation is not that far off, the big units to look out for. If you get Phoebe, be it when she comes out or later, she is a great slot in on this team, especially if you're running Leo, because she likes to have people with the same elements on the same team. So when you get Phoebe, if you get Phoebe, that's the replacement to Okean, and that's the only update you would make at that time. If you get Cord, Cord will replace Leo. So you can sub him out for Cord. She's going to give you more highlights, better highlights, things of that sort. And then later on, you can get Futaba. Futaba can then come in place of Phoebe. Obviously, at this point, you're well past Okean. But for today's teams, you're going to look at something like this for damage and sub in a sustainer if you need sustain, like say for Guild Boss, something like that. And then near-term future, just know that Phoebe's better than Okean and Cord is better than Leo. That's the way you structure the team composition. You do want Makoto going last, so this is not a good setup. This isn't speed tune, I'm just showing you characters. But you want her going last so she is fully buffed by the time it gets to her, particular, time to shine for her moves. Weapons, let's talk, there's 2 weapons you really want to look at here. And when Palace 3 comes out, there's a 3rd weapon. So there's a big, question between the Inferno and the new Arc Knife. So let's talk about both and what they do. So the Inferno Knife, basically the first part is for Wonder. That's not going to help Makoto out at all. But this latter half, after knocking down a foe, decrease the target's defense by 30% for 1 turn. So where is this helpful? Because this is a weapon that you can have maxed out already. This is helpful in things like Velvet Trials, where you will be looking to knock down enemies to trigger higher scores, anything where you can actually down the enemy. Where this is not helpful is things like Guild Bosses where you can't knock them down. So just know that if you're using this weapon, it needs to be in a situation where you can knock somebody down. Arc Knife is a great single target weapon. So let's pull this up here. And so this one, again, we'll skip the parts that help just Wonder. It's not really for that. But when attacking a foe, decrease the target's defense by 4.5% for 2 turns. Increase this effect for each of the target's elemental ailments. So let's say you've got, the 4 elemental ailments coming from Vino. You can max out this stack down here, the 4 times 4.5. Or as you level this up over time, this gets to be a stronger effect. Now you do have to attack the enemy. So this is where you might do something like, say, I don't know, a Yannisek, having him use his, main gun attack that, creates that mark situation. It'll give them the mark. It'll also trigger this. So this is a great one, really for your any single target damage that you want to do, or for places where you can't do knockdowns. More times than not, I'm using the Arc Knife when it comes to my setup. And that leaves us with personas. Many of us are in different parts of this journey right now. So I'm going to cover the, kind of before level 70 and then the after level 70, because it's going to be a much different situation between the two. So before level 70, some really good personas you can use are going to be Kumo Kuten. He's got Revolution to help you crit. I've also put Rebellion on mine. You can put other, powers on him to customize him, but he's a good one to start off in giving you attack, crit rate, offering just a really good crit buff to your team, particularly Makoto. You've got Yerlinger. So this is one where if the foe is shocked, which again, you're doing elemental ailments, they can increase the damage that the foe is taking. So another good one, you can see I've got Raccoon on mine as well. So I've, moved powers. For some survivability plus additional winded status, you can look at Norn. You can look at Yanosik to do like the mark like I was talking about earlier. So these are all, good ones to use. My kind of preferred setup right now is probably going to be something like Kuomo Kuten. Geez, I can't say it. Yerlinger and Yanosik. Like this is something I would see myself bringing into a team, or possibly Norn if I need more sustain, like that shield that he gives. Let's talk about level 70. Level 70 is not far off for many of us, within the next week or so, or if you've been spending stamina, then maybe you're about to hit it. I'm like half a level away as of recording. So let's talk about what level 7 personas are about to open up for you and which ones are important. So first of all, your big crit one is going to be Dionysus. So he is probably your top priority when you hit level 7 for, personas. He's got a great innate ability, which we can cover more on the rank 7 persona skills. But basically know that he becomes your crit buffer. You want him to be the one to launch your crit, effects onto your team. So he's a big one. And then in place of Yerlinger, in the exchange, which next week, as of this recording, is the first time we'll have enough coins to do this if you've been doing your guild battles and SOSs every week. But in here, he is like your big nuke one. So something to know about him is he gets buffed later on. I saw this on Najox's Twitter. But basically, he does some stuff for Wonder, whatever. But when using his skill in a foe, increase main target's nuke damage taken by 8% per elemental ailment. And then later down the road, he also gives attack to your party. So he's a really good nuke unit to add into your team. And then for your third slot, you're still good with the other ones. Like you can still bring Janosek. He's a good slot in, just all around. You could look to do more debuffs, whatever kind of suits your fancy. But these would be the two that I would say you really want to look at prioritizing into your team. But that's it for personas. That's it for team building. So again, if you want a strong damaging team without sustain, just do this right here. And if you want sustain, just pick your best healer. Make sure their cards don't conflict with each other, and that will take you through. Replace with Phoebe later, replace with Cord later, and possibly with Futaba further down the line. Hopefully that helps. Let me go set up a battle, and I'm going to show you how to kind of rotate into Queen's damage. All right, so I'm going to show you, not this full fight, just a kind of common setup. I'm going to run with the sustain team here, just because I think it's going to be better overall for this particular fight. And just know that I haven't optimized like my speed. Like my Minami's going to go last, which is not good. I just want to more show you how to set up really the Vino into Queen kind of situation. This is not meant to be a guide on this particular fight. So if this was all single target and you didn't have to worry about adds, either way you'd be coming in and doing skill 1, for Vino here. Get those elemental ailments rolling. Wonder, you're going to want to start doing things like buffing up your crit. And then for Makoto, in real life, I would use skill 1 here, but I want to show you what it looks like to do the skill 3 combo. But let's pretend this is all single target. I would come in here and drop this, because I want to prep into my crash out. Again, she's going out of turn, otherwise she would have gone before Makoto, so whatever, we'll just use her now. Let these guys do some damage to me. If I was playing the skill boss for real, I actually would have been using skill 1 because I want to get these guys down. But I'm also not trying to do this boss yet, so I haven't optimized what I'd be doing. She's got a couple beats, so we're going to go to Retro Dancer. And then for Vino, this is where you'd use skill 3. And I cover Vino because you really do need to run her with Makoto. So you're kind of going 1-3, and then on Makoto you're just doing 3-3-3-3-3. At this point I'd probably switch into Raccoon, so I have Yerlinger active. And now I've got, my crash out ready, so that's up here. I've also got highlights ready, so obviously use your highlights that makes the most sense for a situation. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Makoto's highlight. And now I'm going to go into Crash Out, and I'm going to do Skill 3, because I want to show you this upgraded Skill 3. And there we go. Now this isn't massive damage right now, because I'm like doing the Nightmare level, and I haven't set up properly. But that's really all it comes down to for Makoto, is you're running between Skill 3, Skill 3, Skill 3, or in situations of AoE you might use Skill 1, which again is what I would have done if I was playing this fight for real. But I wanted to show you what it's like to get into Crash Out. And Crash Out is going to last for those couple of turns. So you'll notice down in the bottom here, her mask is still blinking. That's because Crash Out is for 2 turns. Now once Vino comes back up, she just goes right back into a rotation of 1-3-1-3-1. That's your common single target situation. And for big AoE fights, you don't often do a lot of AoE fights with Nuke. And so this is kind of an exception. We've got these guys on the side. And what do I have left here? So like here's another place where I could do like a, get a mark going, which is probably going to fail. Nope, it went on. And so yeah, this one I want to show you. So she's still in Crash Out mode. So we'll jump back in here, go back into another skill 3, let her do some damage. What you're seeing on screen is not representative of her best damage. Again, I'm not fully optimized just yet. If you want to see more of her damage, check out my other video where I think it literally says damage on the thumbnail. That's more indicative of what she does. But that's it. So it leaves us with the question of, should you pull? I have wrestled with this question quite a bit this last week because a lot of people are feeling the pressure to save for Cord. Now, Cord is phenomenal. Of the two, I think Cord does more for your account. But I don't want that to detract from how important I think Makoto is. I think right now, you got to look at the fact that she's your only nuke damage dealer. So things like Velvet Trials, future Metro stuff, anywhere that you need a nuke damage dealer, she will be your only option. And she is a really great single target damage dealer. Again, check out that other damage video I have because that's going to be, a good show of her doing 200,000 plus damage. And so she really is very strong and she can tackle basically all of your single target needs all the way until like Violet comes, which is quite some time from now. So she's a good one to have. She's a good one to invest in. Her banner comes with Vino, and Vino is not just good on the Makoto team. So I think she is a super strong recommendation from me to pull on. Now, I appreciate if you don't have the gems for it or if you don't like her, all those things are valid. But if you're asking from a pure, how good is she for accounts, I think she is a very good unit. Whether you pull for her or not, you're still going to be fine. You're going to live through the game. You're going to be able to complete the story. It's like all things. It's if you have the character, it's better than if you don't have the character. But I do think that from a single target damage perspective, she really is your best bet until Violet comes quite a ways from now. And she is still the only nuke damage dealer in the game on either versions as of right now. If you need to save gems after that, you can skip her weapon. It is really nice. It's a good damage upgrade. But I do think it's skippable for the fact that we've got good units coming up and you may need to conserve some gems. But overall, strong recommend. I would tell you to go get her if you have enough resources to throw at it. Don't feel bad if you don't get her though. So that's it. That's my guide to Makoto. Let me know in the comments if you have pulled her. I know quite a few have already told me this from the pull video itself. But I love the character. I think she's fantastic. And I can't wait to get to level 70 and fully build her out to 80 with all the personas and hopefully get Cord here in the not too distant future and drop her in place of Leo there for a really destructive team. But that's it, my friends. On the way out, if you wouldn't mind a like and a subscribe on the video, it helps me out so much. And until our next video or live stream, please take care of yourselves.